Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where it is all about racing. Now, as I'm sure you probably know, I recently just reviewed this 143 scale Ferrari 488 GTE from the folks at Looksmart. I also had a similar car from Bburago, same scale, basically the same car, and I thought I would do a comparison of the two, considering the fact that the Bburago, can be acquired for about $25, and this car is more like 100 and 150. You can get your hands on one of these at all. Now, the Bburago car is a 143 scale representation of the Ferrari 488 GTE, that of recent competition. And it comes in this nice plastic base with a aluminum tag that you can see is virtually coming undone on the base itself. And what I call the $100 Ferrari box, which is a rather nice looking box if it didn't have advertising for all the other Ferraris on the back side of it. Now, one of the things that Bburago does really well is when you take the top off of this box, it opens up and you can easily remove the car from it. Very, very clever, very cool. I kind of wish Looksmart did it this way. Looks, I thought since I just recently did a review of this 143 scale Looksmart car and about the box and packaging, we wouldn't go through this, but we take a look at these two cars together. And to be honest with you, Bburago generally, in 143 scale, I don't really like these sports car models that they make. They do a much better job in Formula One cars now than they do in 143 scale sports cars. But their Ferrari collection is actually pretty exceptional. And this, for the most part, is a very nice looking car. Now, what it lacks compared to the Looksmart are fine details and overall presentation. Now, the Ferrari 488 from Looksmart, I think, looks much more, I guess you could say, it's lower to the ground than is the Ferrari 488 from Bburago, largely because of the base. Where the Bburago has it kind of on this showcase base. And to be honest with you, if you take a look at the side of it, they really have the thing, it's literally elevated off the ground like it's on air jacks. And you can see the gap in between the car and the base. Not to mention the fact that, as I mentioned before, this aluminum tab is literally falling apart. And I've tried gluing it back and it just doesn't seem to want to stick. I don't want to bend it any more than it does. But nevertheless, it is a fairly good-looking and tight car. Now, what separates it from its Looksmart counterpart, as I mentioned, are things like details. You take a look at this car and you notice the beautifully and nicely done carbon fiber splitter. Those details are lacking on the Bburago model. Also, if you know anything about 488s, all of them have these support rods going from the nose of the car to the splitter. Bburago leaves that fine detail out. Now, the grille on this 488, and even though you can't see it, is a photo etched part. It is very, very nice. If you take a look at the headlights, they are absolutely gorgeous and very, very sharp. Details are sharp. You take a look at the Bburago, well, it's just not the same. The headlights, well, they have the same shape as do the ones on the Looksmart. They're not as nicely detailed. They are amber because that is a requirement of the IMSA WeatherTech series, or this car was raced at Le Mans. Doesn't have the same requirements. Now, other details such as the hood of the car, the mirrors are very, very nicely done, and the interior, which you can see a little bit from here, is really quite sharp. Now, the Bburago does, for the most part, a really nice job on the front of the car. The mirrors look good. You can see inside, if you take a look at the seat belts on the seat itself, they're done in rubber. They are huge, oversized, a little bit more accurate. Also, if you take a look at the windshield wiper, it is nice, but it's not really nearly as good as that on the Looksmart model. Now, another little feature that most of you would probably miss, but really if I don't point it out, is you have the emergency pull tabs for cutting off the power, as well as for the internal fire extinguisher in the engine compartment. And that can be done from here with this little tiny piece there that you can barely see. You'll see that on both sides. This is a feature of the car that is another one of those fine little pieces that you don't get on the Bburago. In fact, you probably don't even notice it. Bburago does have the markings on it, but it lacks the pull tabs itself, where you do have them on the Looksmart. Now we'll take a look at the sides of the cars. We'll start with the Bburago. One of the things that Bburago does really nicely, I think, in 143 scale over their 164 scale products is they do have nicely done tires with the Michelin logos on it. The wheels look pretty good, but they're not nearly as good as the Looksmart. Another huge difference between the two. Otherwise, it does look fairly nice. Notice that you do have small dive planes on the front of the Risi competition Ferrari, where WeatherTech series allows that. For the 24 Hours of Le Mans, they do not. Now, if you take a look at the wheels from this car and the tires, as you can see, the wheels look they're different. They look good. They look sharp. They look crisp, as do the rotors and the brake calipers. You just don't see that on the Bburago car. You take a look into the cabin here, and you do have the slotted window that can be pushed back, and you can see the steering wheel through there. And if you take a look in there, as I've mentioned, you can see the seat along with the belts. If you take a good look at those belts, I mean, they're huge. They're rubber, which is very, very sharp. You take a look at the Looksmart car, and it's just overall the interior is much more realistic looking. You do have the net in between the door and the driver's seat itself. And if you, I wish you could really see the interior. This is really quite good. The seat will look quite sharp and much more realistic on this car than they do on the Bburago. Well, if you take a look at the back of the cars, you can just see that again, the Looksmart car looks much more refined than does the Bburago. On the Bburago, you do have a nice the rear diffuser on the rear of the car. The exhaust looks fairly sharp. Notice that they are single tubed exhaust, where you have kind of a dual exhaust on the later 2020 version of the car. I think the tail lights look very, very nice with the acrylic lights. The wing looks good. And I got to tell you guys, for the most part, Bburago does a really nice job on the engine compartment. That looks quite sharp. And if you compare it to the Looksmart car, I mean, it looks almost as good. But one of the things that you notice, take a look at the carbon fiber surround on the engine compartment. It lacks the carbon fiber trim that is clearly apparent on the Looksmart car. The other thing that Looksmart does particularly better than does Ferrari is you take a look at the rear diffuser. You can clearly see all the carbon fiber trim on it. The tow hook you do not have a tow hook on the Bburago, and it's the small things. Remember, I said the small things that really make Looksmart different. And if you take a look at the grill here behind this taillight, there is the pull tab for the air jack. Something like that is expensive to manufacture and to put on it, and Bburago wouldn't bother with it. You take a look at the engine detail. It is very, very sharp. I mentioned some of the carbon fiber trim you see surrounding it. These are the things that Looksmart is very, very good at. Well, folks, that wraps it up. In conclusion, let me just say that Bburago does a really nice job on this car. For $25, it is one heck of a model, and it's a really nice model. It is one of the few Bburagos that I have kept. Some of the other ones that I had, I gave away to kids because I just didn't want them in my collection. But this one, I think, looks really, really sharp. Now, the Looksmart model, at a cost of about $100 or more, is much more refined, sharper. It has a lot of the details that Bburago just lacks because of the expense of it. But otherwise, I think the Bburago is an exceptionally good value for the money, as I have mentioned before in other reviews. That being said, thanks for watching. Give me your opinions in the comment section. Good to see you. See you next time.